Hey, hey, hey! My name's Helianthus Cryptid, or Nephilim if you'd prefer. Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is the first chapter of Daichi Sawamura's Guide to Barely Surviving College, Sophomore Year Edition, written by Dark Rain 2610 on AO3. I found this amazing fanfiction on TikTok and have been following the updates ever since. The summary of this fanfiction is as followed. Daichi thought he was a reasonable person. Oikawa thought he was a shoo-in for student body president. Bokuto needs new friends. And Kuro needs to get over his ex. Or get back with his ex. Something about his ex. A college AU about the haikyuu third years with some second years thrown in. You can thank TikTok for this, to be honest. This fanfiction includes topics that may be triggering to some viewers. If you are likely to be affected by any of the following, implied sexual content, drinking, homophobia and internalized homophobia, then please consider listening to another one of my videos, such as the Adro series, which is written by XX Cypress Minerva XX. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 1. Kuro's perspective. It's for the best. That's what Daichi Sawamura said right before summer break to Kuro, and if you ask Kuro what he thought about it, he would agree. In fact, if you ask Kuro what he did over summer break, he would tell you all about how he went on trips all over the USA and totally didn't cry at his best friend Kenma's house for over half of it, while the poor kid tried to pack for college himself. So maybe if you ask Kuro in private, he wouldn't exactly agree with Daichi. But it's all behind me now, Kuro explained to Kenma for the fourth time that week. Summer break had come and gone, and the both of them were packing up Kuro's tiny Ford Fiesta with whatever they thought they needed for college. Uh-huh. Kenma didn't look very trusting of Kuro's latest mindset, which is that as soon as he gets to his new shared apartment, he would make friends with all three of them, and immediately forget about Daichi. But Kuro thought it was foolproof. Kenma opened the passenger door, but stopped before sliding in. Before I get in this car, you have to promise me this drive isn't going to be just you talking about your ex. Kuro gulped, but smiled at his short and intimidating best friend. But of course! Kenma rolled his eyes, but closed the door behind him as he buckled his seatbelt. Why would we talk about my shitty ex when we could talk about how you're about to meet Mr. Online Boyfriend for the first time in 4 short hours? Kuro smirked as Kenma's face slowly crept to a colour red when he turned the keys. Never mind, no talking at all on this trip. Oh, come on! Daichi's perspective. Daichi was a very responsible person. He can cook, he cleans up his spaces, he can do his own fucking taxes for crying out loud. He does one slightly irresponsible decision last year, and because of that, Daichi can't get a 2-person apartment. Fucking Kuro. Let me get this straight, Daichi said, exasperated to the probably perfectly nice lady over the phone. I was denied rooming in the 2-person apartments because... You were denied the 2-person apartments because of the end-of-year review left by your roommate last year. Daichi sighed, hopefully what wasn't too loud for the almost empty Starbucks. Okay, so what should I do about housing? You know, since no one told me about this till this morning. The voice on the other end seemingly perked up as Daichi heard a bunch of typing on the other end. We have an open shared room on a 4-person house, if you would be okay with that. And the price of the apartment is much cheaper than the 2-person apartments. Would that be okay? Absolutely not, Daichi thought as he heard someone clear their throat behind him. Yeah, that would be great, thank you, Daichi said into the phone instead. The girl told him she would email him the address and the other details as Daichi hung up, turning around to face the new threat to his otherwise awful day. Daichi was pleasantly surprised, if not a bit intimidated, when he was face to face with Sugawara. Suga! Daichi smiled, the first genuine smile he had that day at his friend, while Suga slid into the other side of the booth. Daichi, how you been? Sorry, it's been so busy. Getting ready for sophomore year has been crazier than I expected. Daichi just shrugged as Suga went on a rant about summer break and deciding to run for student body president, when a name he dropped made him interrupt. Oikawa, like Oikawa Toru? Daichi questioned, wondering if he heard him right. Suga's eyes widened a small degree as he put on what would look like a reassuring smile if Daichi wasn't Suga's best friend since freshman year of high school. You hooked up with Oikawa Toru in a bathroom stall? Suga rolled his eyes as he took a small drink of the rapidly cooling coffee. No, I hooked up with him in a house bathroom. Much classier and roomy. Still, the fact that you hooked up with Oikawa isn't. Suga shrugged as a blush fell on his face, and he looked down at his coffee cup. Daichi almost spit out the bite he had just taken from his bagel as he pieced together more of the story by himself. It wasn't a one-time thing, Daichi said, slightly annoyed at his friend's antics. Daichi, this isn't high school. He's much nicer now. Daichi looked at Suga with what people in his old Gen Ed class called his disappointed dad face. Suga just rolled his eyes again, but did slightly scoot down his seat. Suga, he made you cry during the last set. Suga looked up from the apparently very interesting coffee cup to meet Daichi's eyes. Yeah, and he made me cry much more during sex. It was Daichi's turn to flush as he looked down at his half-eaten bagel. Dai, I can handle myself now, and if for some reason I get hurt, I know you'll be there to back me up. I got this. Daichi shook his head but smiled softly at Suga's sentiment while taking another bite. You and I both know you could take Oikawa in a fight, Daichi said, talking around the food in his mouth. I thought so too, but Daichi, if you knew what his muscles felt like, you might think. Daichi fought back another choke while washing down the bagel with a swig of Suga's drink. Okay, no more talking about Oikawa while I'm eating. Suga raised an eyebrow as Daichi handed him back his now half-drunken coffee. You know, you just shared a drink with me, and I have definitely had Oikawa's tongue all over my mouth. Suga! Bokuto's perspective. This year would be different. Bokuto could feel it in his veins. At least, that's what his reflection said back to him as he repeated the mantra that he had been telling himself for the past month. This year, he was going to make real friends. This year, he was going to be the top of his classes. And no stuffy college official was going to try and take away his scholarship. Bokuto smiled at his reflection as he saw another person in the mirror with him, wrapping his long arms around him. Bokuto laughed softly as the taller blonde buried his head into his shoulder. You should wait one more year, and then I'll be there to room with you. Bokuto was pretty sure that's what the blonde said, but he would admit it was a bit hard to hear him with how his mouth was covered. Or you shouldn't room at all. Your parents live close enough as it is. You could just drive to school. Bokuto could feel his smile falter as he turned around and pulled his noodle boyfriend off of him. Suki, we went over this! Sugashima rolled his eyes while straightening out his glasses, but Bokuto could tell he was pouting over his choice to room at college. Not that Bokuto blamed him after what happened his freshman year, but having him say negative things was making Bokuto rethink his choices, which he couldn't afford. And you could always come see me, you know that? Sugashima couldn't help but as he sat down on Bokuto's bed, now stripped clean except for the sheets. Pulling at the little balls forming on the aging fabric, Sugashima shook his head. If someone messes with you again, call me and I'll come beat some sense into them, or whatever. Bokuto heard what Sugashima was actually trying to say. Call me whenever. I'll be there. Bokuto launched himself across the room, wrestling the younger boy as they both laughed. Okay, Suki. Bokuto got out between deep breaths, finally pinning the younger but taller boy underneath him. Will do. But only if you call me whenever you want to. Bokuto watched with amusement as the blonde tried to get out of the hold, but Bokuto wasn't on the football scholarship for no reason. And you have to call me whenever I get lonely. Sugashima threw his head back while sighing, sounded exasperated. Bo, How would I even know? Bokuto jabbed his hands into the blonde's sides, earning him a yelp, and fell onto the other side of the bed, both of them now staring up at the ceiling. You're my boyfriend! You should have those special boyfriend senses that let you know how I'm feeling at all times. Sugashima moved his head to the right, looking Bokuto in the eyes with unbelieving eyes. And this boyfriend trait is for both of us? But of course! Then what am I feeling, boyfriend? Bokuto smiled. A bit ruefully, but he turned on his side to face Sugashima. Well, boyfriend, I think you feel quite sad I'm leaving, but you're also Sugashima, so you're pretending like you don't care. Sugashima's face went slightly red as he broke eye contact, but Bokuto grabbed his hand while sitting them back up. But I don't mind that, because I know what you actually mean. When people usually see Bokuto and Sugashima, they have a lot of questions. How did the stick up the arse end up with Mr. Moodswing? Or more likely than you think, people just say, what the fuck? Sugashima doesn't try and explain it, and whenever Bokuto tries, he usually gets weird looks, but it just makes sense to him. Bokuto understands what Suki means, and Sugashima doesn't have to read in between the lines with Bo. They understand each other, and it's worked for 3 years and even a year with them in college and high school. Now if only they could get through one more. Now what am I thinking? Bokuto said, smiling at the younger, who was just looking down at him with a pointed look. I think you're about to kiss me goodbye before you miss your bus ride to college. Bokuto threw his head back with a laugh as he pulled Suki into a short kiss. I think this year is going to be different, Bokuto. You're going to do great, Bokuto. And whenever you get the time, you should visit your parents more. But I'm going to miss you, so you should visit me more. Now you should really go, or you're going to miss your tram like last year, you idiot. I care about you. Standing up, Bokuto held out his hand for Sugashima to take as he helped him off the bed. Don't worry, Suki. The only thing I know for this year is that we won't be different. Yeah, you big sap. Now go. You're really gonna be late again for sophomore year? Sugashima rolled his eyes as he pulled Bokuto towards the front door, laughing again and letting his boyfriend pull him. Bokuto heard what he was trying to say. I love you. Love you too, Suki! Oikawa's perspective. Suga fucking Wara Koshi. The bane of Oikawa's existence. A purely confident bastard and one hell of a kisser. Sugawara Koshi was running for student body president against him. Standing tall in the headmaster's office, him and the guy he sucked face with countless times this summer were facing off for the role Suga knew Oikawa was going after. The little bitch. You two are certainly the best choice for the role. That being said, only one of you can be president, the headmaster said while laughing, which Suga laughed easily with, but Oikawa could feel his force. Come on, Oikawa. Don't lose your nerve here. The headmaster cleared his throat as he continued talking. Usually we have this all sorted out before the new school year, but things have been out of order for some reason this year. Oikawa nodded as Suga offered the headmaster a kind smile that only Oikawa would see as sickly sweet. The headmaster smiled back at Suga, and Oikawa cursed inside his head again. We'll have a short election period, and before the end of rush week, one of you will be president, and the other vice. You're dismissed. Walking out of the main building, Suga smiled brightly as Oikawa glared down at him. Surprise! Suga offered, holding out his hand for a handshake. Oikawa grabbed it firmly, but pulled him around the corner, walking fast, not really caring if people saw him. Being on the council last year, Oikawa had come on campus a few days early to help out so there wasn't too many people just standing around. Oikawa found it strange that Suga was here too, but he guessed the meeting answered that question. Stumbling around the corner, Oikawa pushed Suga into the brick wall behind him, hearing a sharp inhale. Oikawa smirked as he looked at Suga with darkened eyes, pinning him to the wall. What? Oikawa spit out with venom, getting thicker as Suga's smile widened. The fuck are you doing? Suga wiggled one of his arms out of Oikawa's grasp to grab onto the front of his shirt and pull him closer. Just my way of welcoming you back to college. Suga closed the gap between them, locking their lips together for what had to be the 100th time. Fighting for control, Oikawa moved his hands to grasp Suga's hips, running his thumbs underneath the light brown shirt he was wearing. Suga stifled a groan, and Oikawa knew he won this round, as he smiled wickedly against Suga's mouth. Oikawa moved his leg in between Suga's as the other man let out a gasp. Suga pushed Oikawa slightly, having him move slightly back. Oikawa moved, but continued to kiss Suga, moving his mouth to send short kisses down the grey-haired man's neck, stopping to suck slightly at the base of it. Oikawa, is your room open? Suga asked, stuttering, breathing heavy as Oikawa continued his kiss. Why? Oikawa murmured into his neck, smiling as he saw the purple colour already blooming across his skin. Have fun finding a shirt to cover that, Sugawara. Because Oikawa chose that moment to suck harder on the already lightly coloured spot, earning him a groan and more space, as Suga threw his head back against the wall. Because as much as I want you to rail me against this wall so I miss the election, we can't do it right under the headmaster's window. That and my room keys won't be available until 5 today. Oikawa rolled his eyes, but did note that Suga was right about their location, leaving one last kiss on the forming hickey. Oikawa pulled back to assess the damage. Suga's face was flushed, lips swollen as he took deep breaths. A quick glance down proved other facts to Oikawa as well. Fine, but if my new roommates are there, they're gonna learn how loud you are real quick. Oikawa looked around, trying to find the bag he dropped sometime during this whole ordeal, as Suga cleared his throat. Turning back around, Oikawa found Suga holding his bag out to him. Grabbing it out of his hand quickly, Suga laughed quietly as he shouldered past Oikawa. Careful. Wouldn't want you losing your bag and the election. Suga fucking Wara! Bokuto's perspective. Bokuto was late to the bus, but a desperate college student running after a public transportation vehicle is pretty noticeable, and he guessed the driver was feeling extra charitable because he pulled over for him. If Suki asked, Bokuto decided not to tell him that part. However, now standing outside his new apartment, Bokuto couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. There are people already in there? What if I'm the last one? Bokuto shook his head as he willed the nervous and, if he's honest, totally not applicable thoughts away as he unlocked the door. Walking in, Bokuto was greeted with not 1, not 2, but 3 people in the living room. It almost felt like they were waiting for him, locking eyes with the lanky, dark-haired one. The brown-haired man sighed while grabbing a bottle of what Bokuto could only assume was some kind of alcohol, and took a swig as the one he locked eyes with cheered. So they were waiting for me. Hi. The lanky one stood up from his spot on the chair to sling an arm around Bokuto. You, my friend! The guy started as Bokuto's eyes widened a bit from the casual use of the word. Are now my roommate. We lock eyes. Bros at first sight. Bokuto pulled out from the guy's arm to look at him. Taking an inventory, everything clicked together as Bokuto let out a loud laugh, startling the grey-haired one. Hell yeah, man! Bros for life! Bokuto agreed as his new bro sat back down. So you guys were just waiting for me to decide who was gonna room with who? Bokuto watched as the grey-haired one threw his legs over the brown-haired one, who didn't seem to mind other than a raised eyebrow. And you seem to know each other. Bokuto's roommate snorted as the brown-haired one shot him a dirty look. Not exactly. Kuro Tetsuro, business major, and your new best friend. Bokuto smiled at him as Kuro continued. The brown-haired one is Oikawa. Oikawa held out his hand to stop Kuro from talking as the other man smirked at him. Oikawa Toru, theatre major. This is Suga, who was just leaving. The grey-haired man smiled sweetly at Oikawa, who rolled his eyes with an eyebrow raised as he moved his legs to get off of him. Sugawara Koshi, you're Bokuto, right? Bokuto nodded silently as he tried to place the other guy who was slipping on his shoes. I'm an education major too. So I think we had some classes in Gen Ed last year. Don't feel too bad. I know I'm not the most noticeable person. Suga shrugged on his coat as he reached for the door handle. It was nice meeting you guys. Hopefully we can become friends. Bokuto smiled brightly at him as he returned the smile and Kuro raised a hand to wave. Suga smirked over his shoulder as Oikawa raised his middle finger. Love you too, babe. See you on the stands. As the front door closed, Bokuto tilted his head in confusion as Oikawa sat up abruptly. It was nice to meet you, he said in a high-pitched voice, mocking what Sugawara had said a few seconds before. I'm not a noticeable person. Yeah, right, I know you wear those jeans on Wednesday, so I'll check out your ass. Bokuto looked at Kuro, who just shrugged. Dude, I don't even know. They were literally fucking when I got here, which is the reason I took the other room. Bokuto halfway stifled a laugh as Oikawa reached over to smack Kuro. You were! Oikawa just shrugged as he motioned for Bokuto to come sit with him on the couch. It's complicated, Oikawa simply stated. Like that answered all their questions. So Bokuto, education major, huh? I knew who you were because you're on the football team. Bokuto smiled a bit shyly as Oikawa shouldered him lightly. Didn't know I was rooming with the campus celebrity. That means I'm cool by default, right? Kuro said, moving the bottle of alcohol over to Bokuto. You don't have to, but it kinda helps the nerves. Bokuto laughed, a bit strained as he looked over at the bottle. One drink won't hurt, and it would be weird if I didn't because it's clear that they already have. While Bokuto was having an existential crisis, he missed the look that passed through the other two people in the room. Actually, I'm done. Are you cool with that, Kuro? Oikawa said suddenly, looking around for the cat. Bokuto shook his head to shake his thoughts away as Kuro nodded, handing Oikawa the lid. That's chill. I'm a total lightweight anyway. Bokuto let out a breath of air he didn't know he was holding as he smiled at his new roommates. Yeah, this year's gonna be different for sure, but right now it's looking great. Daichi's perspective. This was it. The way Daichi died. Going up the stairs holding a bunch of boxes he really shouldn't have brought as he climbed 3 staircases to a 4-person shared apartment he didn't want. At least you get in shape before football tryouts. At least there's that. Whoa, you need a hand? Daichi looked over the boxes to find he almost ran into another person, who looked like he was about to have a panic attack because of talking to Daichi. I mean, not to assume you can't carry all of that. You look totally strong enough. I'm just asking because... That'd be great, thank you. Daichi felt his arms lift as another man took some of the weight off. I'm Daichi Sawamura. You? The other man seemed to calm down enough that his voice wasn't shaking as he answered. Asahi Azamane. I'm in apartment 304, but I was a bit nervous to go in, so it's kind of good you're here to give me a distraction. Daichi raised his eyebrow as he glanced at the scary-looking man walking beside him. You're telling me you're avoiding meeting your new roommates by meeting random other people in your apartment complex? Well, when you put it that way... Daichi let out a short laugh as he stopped outside his new apartment. Looks like I'm right above you, Asahi. I'll try not to stomp around. Asahi let out a laugh as well while he put down the rest of Daichi's stuff. It was nice meeting you. Hopefully your roommates aren't too crazy. Asahi's face paled slightly as he remembered where he had to go next and nodded. You too, Daichi. I'll see you around. Waving at the retreating man, Daichi shook his head while pushing the key in. Swinging open the door, Daichi found the one person he didn't want to room with waiting for him. Oikawa Toru, high school rival, stealer of Suga's attention this summer, was laying across the couch watching what Daichi could piece together as a shitty rom-com. Looking up from the screen and making eye contact, Daichi wondered if it was too late to drop out and become a male stripper. Well, isn't this an interesting twist? Oikawa sat up and paused the TV, smiled wickedly across the room to where Daichi was still standing shell-shocked. Daichi, how have you been? Suddenly another man came bounding out of the back room, looking hyped. Daichi! Haven't seen you since last season! You're the last roommate? This is gonna be so sick, man! Daichi looked around, seemingly frozen as Bokuto pulled Daichi into a hug, making him drop the box he was holding. Hi, Bo! Daichi choked out, losing air from his lungs at a rapid pace. Oikawa watched with mild amusement as Bokuto finally let Daichi go, clapping him on the back hard. Are you guys rooming together, or do I get to room with Bokuto? Daichi watched as Oikawa's smile grew more Venus, as he stood up to grab one of Daichi's boxes. Actually, Daichi, you're my roommate, Oikawa said in a voice that reminded Daichi of the sickly sweet voice Suga does when he's being passive-aggressive. And as a good roommate, I'll help you move your overwhelming amount of shit into our shared bedroom. Daichi rolled his eyes as he picked up the box he dropped. I'll get rid of some of it. I wasn't expecting to be in a shared room. Daichi looked around at the other two housemates and decided he could live with it. Bokuto was loud and messy in the locker rooms, and he was sure he was a good guy, and Oikawa... If Suga trusted Oikawa, Daichi could be civil with him. So who's the other guy? Bokuto's eyes lit up as he turned around to face Daichi. You're gonna love him, dude! He's so funny! Oh, Bokuto, my bro, you hype me up too much, but please cut... Daichi froze as soon as he heard the first syllables come out of the last roommate's mouth, as the other guy moved around the corner to greet the group. Daichi watched as the other man froze as well, both of them staring at each other as the other two looked back and forth in confusion. Kuro unfroze first. Daichi, Kuro said breathlessly, but stopped himself from saying anything else. Daichi suddenly felt like he was on stage, all eyes on him, and he didn't know when his life changed from a normal one to a shitty rom-com / soap opera with no good ending in sight. So he said the first thing he could think of. Oh, hell no! Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. I apologise if my voice sounds a bit off, I'm a bit sick at the moment, but it's nothing to worry about. Whilst recording this, I sometimes was blushing as red as a strawberry, I have to admit. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, DarkRain2610, on AO3. I would highly appreciate if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel, and you hit the notification bell to be notified when I next upload. There is no pressure to do so, though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing, my sunflowers. Mwah!